The stars stretched endlessly before the horizon's promise as it moved through the dark void of space. Captain Jinho Park stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back, watching the view screen with calm eyes. He had been exploring the unknown regions of space for 3 years now, and the silence of the void had become his companion. "Captain, we're picking up something strange," said Dongwoo Han from the communication station. His fingers moved quickly across the controls, adjusting frequencies. "It's a signal, but not like anything in our databases." Jinho walked over to the communication station and looked at the readings. The signal pulsed in patterns that seemed almost musical, rising and falling like waves. "Can you trace the source?" "Yes, sir. It's coming from a star system about 2 light-years from our current position. The system isn't on any of our charts." Dr. Hana Kim looked up from her science station, curiosity bright in her eyes. "An unknown system sending out signals? That's exactly what we're out here looking for." Jinho nodded slowly. "Set a course. Let's see what's calling out to us." The journey took 3 days. When they finally dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the unknown system, the crew gathered on the bridge to see what they had found. A yellow sun burned at the center of the system, but something was wrong with it. Dark spots covered its surface, and its light seemed weaker than it should be. "The star is dying," said Dr. Minji Song, the ship's astrophysicist. Her voice was troubled as she studied the readings. "But this isn't natural. Stars don't die like this. Something is making it happen." "Look at the third planet," Hana said, bringing up an image on the main screen. "There are cities down there. Huge ones. The planet was beautiful. Blue oceans covered much of its surface, and the continents glowed with soft light even in the daytime." As they got closer, they could see that the cities were made of crystal structures that caught the sunlight and made it dance in rainbow colors. "I'm receiving a response to our signal," Dongwoo said. "They're trying to communicate." The main screen flickered, and then an image appeared. The being on the screen was unlike anything the humans had ever seen. It stood about 3 feet tall with a body that seemed to be made of living crystal. Light moved through it in gentle pulses, creating patterns that somehow felt like emotions. The being's large eyes looked at them with something that might have been hope. "This is Captain Jinho Park of the human exploration vessel Horizon's Promise," Jinho said clearly. "We received your signal. Can you understand me?" The being's lights pulsed, and a device beside it began translating. The voice that came through was soft and musical. "We understand. We are the Lumini. We thank you for answering our call. We did not think anyone would come." Over the next several hours, the crew learned the truth about the Lumini. They were an ancient race, having lived in peace on their world for over 200,000 years. They had never known war or violence. Their entire civilization was built on art, science, and the sharing of knowledge. But now they were facing something they could not solve. Their sun was dying, and they didn't know why. The Lumini had discovered that in 6 months their world would become too cold to support life. Every living thing on their planet would die. Hana and Minji worked with the Lumini scientists, studying the sun's decay. What they found made Jinho's blood run cold. The star's death wasn't natural. Someone had done this long ago using technology that left traces in the star's core. "This was sabotage," Minji said, her voice shaking with anger. "Someone killed their son on purpose." "How many Lumini are there?" Jinho asked the being they had been talking to, whose name translated as Elder Soren. 4,200,000, Soren answered. The lights in his crystalline body dimmed with sadness. "We have tried everything we know, but we cannot save our son. We sent out the signal hoping someone somewhere might help us, but we understand if you cannot. We know we are strangers to you." Jinho looked at his crew. He saw the same determination in their eyes that he felt in his heart. They were far from Earth, operating on an exploration mission with limited resources. They had orders to continue mapping this region of space, but those orders suddenly seemed very small compared to what was in front of them. "Lieutenant Minho," Jinho said to his security officer, "send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we've found an alien species in need of emergency evacuation. Request immediate support." "Yes, sir," Minho Choi said, moving quickly to carry out the order. "Dr. Kim, work with the Lumini scientists. I want to know everything about that sun and whether there's any way to buy more time." "On it." "Captain," Hana replied. "Engineer Lee," Jinho continued, turning to Yuna Lee. "Go through the Lumini's technical databases. Look for anything that might help us." "Understood, sir," Yuna said with a determined nod. Jinho looked back at Elder Soren on the screen. We're not leaving. Humanity will help you. Soren's body blazed with light, patterns of what could only be gratitude flowing through the crystal. Why, you do not know us. We have nothing to offer you in return. You're alive and you need help, Jinho said simply. That's enough reason for us. The crew of the Horizon's Promise got to work. Days passed as they studied the problem and looked for solutions. The Lumini opened their entire civilization to them, sharing everything they knew. Hana was amazed by what she found. The Lumini had made discoveries in physics and biology that humanity had never dreamed of. But they had never developed weapons or military technology, because they had never needed them. It was on the 5th day that Dongwu called Jinho to the bridge urgently. Captain, long-range sensors are picking up multiple ships entering the system. They're big and they're armed. Jinho felt a chill run down his spine. Can you identify them? Yes, sir. They match the profile of Krell Dominion warships, 3 of them, and they're heading straight for us. Minho pulled up information about the Krell from their databases. What Jinho read made his jaw tighten. The Krell Dominion was a massive military empire that conquered worlds and took what they wanted. They were known for harvesting resources from dying planets, stripping them bare before the end came. They're here for the planet, Hana said quietly. They're going to take everything before the sun dies. What about the Lumini? Yuna asked. Minho shook his head grimly. The Krell don't care about other species. They'll take what they want and leave nothing behind. Jinho stood tall, making his decision. Battle stations. Send a message to the Krell fleet. Tell them this planet and its people are under human protection. His crew stared at him. They all knew what he was saying. The Horizon's Promise was a science vessel, not a warship. Against 3 Krell destroyers, they had almost no chance of survival. Sir, Earth Command hasn't responded yet, Dongwu said carefully. We're alone out here. I know, Jinho said calmly. But we made a promise. Sound the alarm. All crew to stations. And someone get me a line to those Krell ships. It's time they learned what happens when they threaten someone under humanity's protection. The Horizon's Promise powered up its defensive systems as the 3 massive Krell warships grew larger on the view screen. Behind them, the beautiful crystal cities of the Lumini glowed softly in the dying light of their sun, unaware of the battle that was about to begin. The 3 Krell warships hung in space like massive predators, their dark hulls covered with weapon ports and armor plating. On the bridge of the Horizon's Promise, the crew watched the view screen with tight faces as the largest ship opened a communication channel. The Krell commander who appeared was tall and covered in thick scales. His eyes were cold and emotionless as he studied Jinho. Human vessel, you have claimed protection over this world. By what authority? By the authority of basic decency, Jinho replied calmly. The Lumini are a peaceful species facing extinction. They need help, not exploitation. The Krell commander made a sound that might have been laughter. The weak exist to serve the strong. This is the natural order. The planet's resources will be harvested. You have 1 hour to leave this system, or you will be destroyed along with it. The screen went dark. Jinho turned to his crew and saw their determination. None of them suggested leaving. We have 1 exploration vessel against 3 warships, Minho said, reviewing tactical data. Even with our best tactics, we can't win a direct fight. Then we don't fight directly, Jinho said. Dongwu, send out a priority distress call on all human frequencies. Let every human ship, station, and colony within range know what's happening here. Tell them the Lumini are under attack and need immediate help. That signal will reach across half the sector, Dongwu said, but it'll take time for anyone to respond if they respond at all. Do it anyway. And add this message. This is what humanity stands for. This is who we are. While Dongwu worked on the distress call, Hana and Minji continued their work with the Lumini scientists. They had been trying to understand the ancient technology that had damaged the sun. What they discovered was both terrible and hopeful. Captain, you need to see this, Hana called from the science station. She brought up a holographic display showing complex energy patterns. The Lumini have technology that could temporarily stabilize their sun. It was developed thousands of years ago but never used because they never needed it. The problem is it requires massive amounts of power to activate. How massive? Jinho asked. Minji pulled up calculations. More than our ship can generate. We'd need to connect directly to the Lumini's planetary power grid and channel everything they have. It would leave their entire civilization without power for weeks, but it could buy them up to 10 years of time. 10 years is enough to evacuate them, Yuna said, her mind already racing through the engineering challenges. If Earth Command sends ships, we could move everyone to safety. There's still no response from Earth Command, Dongwu reported quietly. The message we sent 5 days ago should have reached them by now. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. They all understood what that silence meant. Earth was not coming to help. Humanity's official response to the Lumini's crisis was nothing. Down on the planet's surface, Minho had taken a team to meet with the Lumini leaders. Walking through their crystal cities was like moving through a dream. The buildings were alive with light, and everywhere he looked, Lumini were creating art or sharing knowledge with each other. There was no crime, no violence, no conflict. They had built a perfect, peaceful society. Your people have never fought? Minho asked Elder Soren as they walked. Never, Soren replied, his lights pulsing gently. We do not understand the concept of deliberately harming another being. When we have disagreements, we share perspectives until we reach understanding. Violence is alien to us. The Krell won't care about that, Minho said gently. When they come, they'll take what they want and destroy everything else. We know, Soren said, his lights dimming. We have been studying your human databases, trying to understand conflict and defense. But our bodies and minds are not made for fighting. We cannot become warriors no matter how much we wish to protect our children. Minho felt a surge of protective anger. These beings had spent 200,000 years building something beautiful. And now brutal conquerors wanted to destroy it all simply because they could. Back on the Horizon's Promise, Yuna was working with Lumini engineers to access their ancient stellar stabilizer. The technology was incredibly advanced, far beyond what humanity had achieved. If they could make it work, it would save the Lumini civilization. The stabilizer is buried deep beneath their northern continent, Yuna explained to Jinho over a communication link. It's been dormant for thousands of years. We'll need to bring it online carefully, or it could overload. I'll need at least 3 days to prepare it. You have 2 days, Jinho said. The Krell gave us 1 hour, and that was yesterday. They're preparing to attack. We need that stabilizer ready before they make their move. I'll do my best, Captain. As predicted, the Krell didn't wait long. Their ships began moving into attack positions around the planet, their weapons powering up. Jinho knew he had to buy time, even if it meant sacrificing his ship. All hands, this is the captain, he announced over the ship-wide intercom. I won't lie to you. We're outgunned and alone. Earth isn't coming to help, and the Krell fleet could destroy us in minutes. But down on that planet are 4 million beings who have never hurt anyone. They've spent 200,000 years building a civilization of beauty and knowledge. They have children. They have dreams. And they're about to die unless we stop it. I'm ordering all non-essential personnel to evacuate to the planet's surface. If you choose to stay and fight with me, I won't think less of anyone who leaves. The minutes ticked by. Jinho waited for people to request transport to the surface. Instead, every single crew member reported to their battle stations. Dongwu looked at Jinho with a slight smile. Looks like we all made the same choice, Captain. The Krell attacked at dawn, the planet's time. Their warships opened fire with devastating weapons that lit up space with deadly energy. The Horizon's Promise dodged and weaved through the attack, using the planet's orbital mechanics and nearby asteroids for cover. Return fire, Jinho ordered. Aim for their sensor arrays and weapon systems. The human ship's weapons were meant for defending against pirates, not military warships. But the crew of the Horizon's Promise fought with desperate courage, using every trick they knew. They led the Krell ships through asteroid fields, used the planet's gravity to slingshot around for surprise attacks, and coordinated their shots to target weak points. One of the Krell ships took damage to its engines and had to fall back. But the other 2 pressed the attack, their superior firepower taking a toll on the human vessel. Alarms blared across the bridge as systems overloaded and hull breaches were reported. Shields at 15%, Yuna called out from engineering. We can't take much more of this. That's when Hana made a discovery that changed everything. Working with the Lumini scientists, she had been studying their biology. The Lumini's crystalline bodies could process and channel energy in unique ways, and their planet-wide network could connect every Lumini together into one massive computational system. Captain, Hana's voice was excited and urgent. The Lumini can help us. Their planetary network can predict enemy movements by analyzing energy patterns and gravitational distortions. They can see attacks coming before they happen. Patch them into our tactical systems, Jinho ordered immediately. Suddenly, new data began flowing into the bridge displays. The Lumini's network was showing them where the Krell would fire, before the enemy ships even pulled their triggers. The Horizon's Promise began dodging attacks that hadn't been launched yet, moving with an eerie prescience that confused the Krell commanders. The human ship pressed its advantage, striking back harder. They managed to destroy one of the Krell warship's main weapon arrays, significantly reducing its threat. The battle turned from certain defeat into a desperate stalemate, but Jinho knew they couldn't keep this up forever. His ship was falling apart around him, and the Krell had reinforcements they could call. He needed a miracle. That's when Dongwu suddenly stood up from his station, his face pale. "Captain, I'm receiving a response to our distress call." "Multiple responses. Earth Command?" Jinho asked hopefully. "No, sir," Dongwu said, and then he smiled. Everyone else. The view screen lit up with new signals. Ships were jumping into the system. Dozens of them. They weren't military vessels. They were colony ships, merchant freighters, mining platforms, and even private yachts. Every human who had heard the call and could get to the system was coming. A voice came over the communication system. "This is Captain Nari Kwan of the colony ship New Seoul. We heard you needed help protecting some folks who can't protect themselves. That's what humans do. Where do you need us?" The space around the Lumini homeworld filled with ships. They came from everywhere, from colonies Jinho had never heard of, from mining stations in distant asteroids, from trading routes that crossed the sector. None of them were warships. All of them came to help. "Captain Kwan, it's good to see you," Jinho said with relief. "But I have to warn you, those Krell destroyers are armed with military-grade weapons. Most of your ships don't have shields strong enough to survive even one direct hit." "We know the risks, Captain Park," Nari replied. Her face on the view screen was calm and determined. "We all made the choice to come. Now tell us how we can help." Jinho quickly organized the civilian fleet. The larger colony ships and freighters formed a protective ring around the planet, their bulk serving as barriers. The smaller, faster ships became a harassment force, darting in to distract the Krell and draw their fire away from vulnerable targets. The mining platforms, equipped with heavy industrial lasers, positioned themselves to support the Horizon's Promise. The Krell commanders were confused. They had expected the lone human ship to be destroyed or to run away. They had not expected dozens of civilian vessels to arrive and fight. The Krell sent a message demanding to know what was happening. "Your species is insane," the Krell commander said, his scaled face twisted in confusion. "These are not military ships. You are risking civilians to protect aliens you just met. This makes no tactical sense." "It doesn't have to make tactical sense," Jinho replied. "It makes human sense. We protect those who can't protect themselves. That's who we are." The Krell attack resumed, but now they faced a very different battle. The civilian ships might not have military weapons, but humans were creative. Mining lasers that were designed to cut asteroids could also damage ship hulls. Cargo haulers used their tractor beams to throw debris at Krell vessels. Even the small personal yachts served as scouts, using their speed to warn others of incoming attacks. On the planet's surface, Yuna worked frantically to activate the ancient stellar stabilizer. The Lumini engineers helped her navigate the complex systems, their crystalline bodies interfacing directly with their own technology in ways humans couldn't. "We're almost ready," Yuna reported to the bridge. "But activating this thing is going to pull every bit of power from the planet. The Lumini will be vulnerable while it's running. We need to keep the Krell away from the surface." "Understood," Jinho said. "All ships, new priority. Nothing gets through to the planet. Nothing." The civilian fleet moved to obey. They formed defensive layers, each ship ready to sacrifice itself to protect the Lumini below. The Krell pressed their attack harder, frustrated by the stubborn humans who refused to break. Then disaster struck. A Krell torpedo got through the defensive line and struck a colony ship called Bright Future. The explosion tore through its hull, and the ship began breaking apart. 2,000 people were on board. "All nearby ships, emergency rescue operations," Jinho ordered. "Get those people out." Ships rushed to the Bright Future, their crews working desperately to beam survivors to safety. The Krell used the distraction to push forward, their weapons carving through the human lines. 3 more civilian ships were destroyed, and dozens more were damaged. Minho, still on the planet's surface, watched the battle from a Lumini observation center. The peaceful aliens were gathered around him, their bodies pulsing with distressed light patterns as they watched humans die to protect them. "We do not understand," Elder Soren said quietly. "Why do your people give their lives for us? We have only just met. We have nothing to offer you in return for such sacrifice." Minho thought about his answer carefully. "Because it's right. Because you're alive. And you matter. Because if we let bullies destroy you just because they can, then what kind of people are we? My captain once told me that humanity's worth isn't measured by how strong we are, but by what we choose to protect." "We wish we could fight beside you," Soren said, his lights dimming with sadness. "But we are not made for violence. We can only watch as you bleed for us." "You are helping," Minho said firmly. "Your network is giving us tactical data that's keeping us alive. Your engineers are helping us activate the stabilizer that will save your son. You're doing everything you can, just like we are." A young Lumini, no taller than a human child, approached Minho. Its lights pulsed with a pattern that the translation device interpreted as a question. "Will we survive this?" Minho knelt down to the young being's level. "I promise you we're not going to let them hurt you. Humans keep their promises." Back in space, the battle raged on. The Krell were getting frustrated. They had destroyed several human ships, but more kept coming. And every time they tried to focus on the planet, the humans threw themselves in the way with reckless courage. Captain Nari's ship took a direct hit to its engines. The new Soul began drifting, unable to maneuver. "All crew, abandon ship," she ordered. "Get to the escape pods." But before the Krell could finish off the disabled colony ship, 3 mining platforms moved into position, their industrial shields forming a protective barrier. They took hit after hit, their shields flaring and failing, but they held long enough for the new Soul's crew to evacuate. "Stellar stabilizer is charged and ready." Yuna's voice came through with triumph and exhaustion. "Activating now." On the planet's surface, ancient machinery hummed to life for the first time in thousands of years. Energy began flowing from the planet's core, channeled through the Lumini's crystal network, and beamed directly into their dying sun. The lights in every Lumini city went dark as all power was diverted to the stabilizer. In space, the sun's output began to change. The dark spots on its surface started to shrink. The star's dying light grew stronger and steadier. The Lumini scientists, watching from their darkened labs, pulsed with joy and hope. "It's working," Hana announced from the science station. "The sun is stabilizing. If we can keep this up for another 6 hours, it'll hold for years." But the Krell had noticed what was happening. They realized the humans were trying to save the planet, and they couldn't allow that. If they let the Lumini survive, their entire harvesting operation would be worthless. "All Krell ships are changing tactics," Dongwu reported grimly. "They're targeting the planet directly. They're going to bombard the surface and destroy the stabilizer." The Krell warships turned and fired their main weapons at the planet. Massive energy beams lanced through space, capable of destroying cities and cracking continents. The civilian fleet moved desperately to intercept, but they were too scattered and too damaged. The beams were going to hit the planet. They were going to kill millions of Lumini and destroy the stabilizer. The battle was lost. Then something impossible happened. Every civilian ship in the system, even the damaged ones, even the ones that were drifting without power, activated their shields at the same moment, and somehow, impossibly, those shields linked together into one massive energy barrier that stretched between the Krell weapons and the planet. "How is this possible?" Jinho demanded. "Our ships aren't designed to link shields." "The Lumini are doing it," Hana said, her voice filled with awe. "They're using their planetary network to connect every human ship's computer systems. They're coordinating our shields like one unified system." The Krell weapons hit the combined shield barrier with devastating force. Ship after ship reported shield failures and power overloads. But they held. Barely. The planetary surface below remained safe, and the stabilizer continued its work. The Krell commander appeared on the view screen, his face twisted with rage. "You cannot win this. We will call for reinforcements. We will..." Bring our entire fleet to this system and destroy every last one of you. Then you'd better call them fast, Jinho said coldly, because in 6 hours that sun will be stable, and the Luminae will have 10 years to evacuate. And I promise you, the Krell Dominion will never touch this planet. The Krell commander's eyes narrowed. You are one exploration vessel and a collection of civilian ships. Earth has abandoned you. You have no reinforcements coming. We will destroy you and then we will take what we want from this world. Maybe, Jinho admitted. But you'll have to go through every last one of us first. And I promise you, we'll make you pay for every inch of space. The Krell commander cut the transmission. The enemy ships began charging their weapons for another attack. The human fleet, battered and bleeding, held their positions. Not one ship ran. Not one captain suggested surrender. On the planet below, the young Luminai asked Minho another question, its lights pulsing uncertainly. Are all humans this brave? Minho smiled tiredly. No, we're all scared, but we're brave anyway. That's the difference. The Krell ships opened fire again, and the desperate battle to protect the Luminai continued. 3 hours into the stabilizer operation, the human fleet was falling apart. Ships drifted in space with failing life support. Their crews evacuated to whatever vessels still had room. The Horizon's Promise was running on emergency power, half its systems destroyed. But the Luminai sun continued to grow stronger, and that was all that mattered. How much longer? Jinho asked, his voice hoarse from giving orders for hours straight. 3 more hours, Yuna replied from the planet's surface. The stabilizer is holding, but if we shut it down early, the process will reverse. We have to see this through. Then we hold for 3 more hours, Jinho said simply. All ships maintain defensive positions. I don't care if you're down to your last power cell. Nobody breaks formation. The Krell were preparing something. Their 2 remaining warships had pulled back and were gathering energy. The sensors showed massive power readings building in their main weapons. Captain, they're charging for a concentrated strike, Dongwu warned. If they fire those weapons together at one point in our defensive line, nothing we have can stop it. Jinho knew what that meant. The Krell would punch through the defenses and destroy the stabilizer. 3 hours of sacrifice would be for nothing, and the Luminai would die. Captain Park? A new voice came over the communication system. It was Taeho Lim, a merchant trader whose small convoy had arrived just an hour ago. My ships are loaded with fuel cells and power cores. We were hauling them to a mining colony. If we overload them all at once, it would create an explosion big enough to take out a Krell warship. Jinho finished the thought. But your ships would be destroyed. My crew and I talked it over, Taeho said calmly. We're old, Captain. We've lived our lives. Those Luminai down there deserve a chance to live theirs. We're making the run. Wait, we can find another way. Jinho started to say. There is no other way. Taeho interrupted gently, and we're out of time. It's been an honor flying with you, Captain Park. Tell the Luminai that humans say hello. Taeho's 3 cargo ships broke formation and accelerated straight toward the nearest Krell warship. The Krell, seeing the small vessels approaching, fired their point defense weapons, but the merchant ship's shields held just long enough. They crashed into the Krell hull and exploded with the force of a small sun. The Krell warship broke in half, its massive structure torn apart by the explosion. But the cost was 3 ships and their entire crews. 47 people died in an instant to save millions they had never met. On the planet's surface, the Luminai felt the deaths through their connection to the human ship network. Elder Soren approached Minho, his crystalline body pulsing with colors that the translation device struggled to interpret. It finally settled on one word, grief. We feel their loss, Soren said quietly. Through the network, we felt their final moments. They were not afraid. They were satisfied. How can your species face death with such peace? Because they knew their deaths meant something, Minho said, his own eyes wet with tears. They saved you. That's more than most people get. The Luminae throughout the planet began to glow with a new light pattern. It spread from city to city, a wave of bioluminescence that could be seen from space. The pattern was complex and beautiful, a creation of pure emotion that had never existed before in Luminai history. What is that? Hana asked from the Horizon's Promise, watching the planet glow. It's grief, one of the Luminai scientists explained. but also gratitude and determination. Your species is teaching us emotions we never had words for. We are creating a new form of art, a memorial that will last forever in our collective memory. Every Lumini will carry the memory of the humans who died for us. The battle continued. The remaining Krell warship, now alone, fought with desperate fury. But the human fleet, inspired by Teho's sacrifice, fought back harder. They coordinated their attacks with precision, using the Lumini network to predict and counter every Krell move. Then, Dongwu picked up something that changed everything. "Captain, I'm detecting a message from Earth. It's from the Global Assembly." Jinho felt his heart sink. The Global Assembly was Earth's governing body. If they were finally responding, it probably wasn't good news. He activated the message. The face that appeared was the Assembly's first speaker, an elderly woman named Victoria Chen. Her expression was stern. "Captain Park, you have violated your mission parameters and engaged in unauthorized military action. You have used Earth resources to protect an alien species without approval. You have risked human lives in a conflict that is not our concern." Jinho waited for the order to withdraw, for the court-martial charges, for everything he knew was coming. But the first speaker's stern expression cracked and she smiled. "And you have made humanity proud. Earth will not officially support your actions, Captain, because if we do, we start a war with the Krell Dominion that we cannot win. But unofficially, every human who saw your distress call understands what you're doing out there. The civilian ships that came to help you, they had to bypass Earth naval blockades to reach you. We let them through. We're not sending military support, Captain Park, but we're not stopping anyone else from helping either." The first speaker's image was replaced by data files. "We're sending you everything we have on Krell tactics, technology, and weak points. Information that took us years to gather through diplomatic channels. Use it well, and know that everyone on Earth is watching. You're showing the galaxy who humanity really is. Don't stop now." The transmission ended. Jinho looked at his battered crew and saw new determination in their eyes. Earth wasn't abandoning them. Earth was helping in the only way it could without starting a war. "Upload those files to the network," Jinho ordered. "Share them with every ship in the fleet. It's time we showed the Krell what informed humans can do." With the new tactical data, the human fleet's efficiency improved dramatically. They exploited weak points in the Krell ship's design that they hadn't known existed. They predicted attack patterns based on Krell military doctrine. The lone Krell warship found itself being systematically dismantled by ships it had considered insignificant. The Krell commander sent one final message. "You have won this battle, humans, but it changes nothing. The Krell Dominion has hundreds of ships. We will return with a fleet that will darken this system's sky. You cannot protect these aliens forever." "We don't need forever," Jinho replied. "We just need 10 years to evacuate them, and then they'll be beyond your reach." The Krell warship began to retreat, its hull scarred and smoking. The human fleet let it go, too damaged themselves to pursue. As the enemy ship jumped to hyperspace, a cheer went up across every human vessel. "Stabilizer operation complete," Yuna announced triumphantly. "The sun is stable. It'll hold for at least 10 years, maybe more." The lights on the Lumini planet flickered back to life as power was restored to their cities. The crystal structures began to glow again, but this time the light patterns were different. The Lumini were celebrating in their own way, creating art that expressed joy and gratitude in colors humans had never seen before. But the celebration was short-lived. Sensors detected something that made everyone's blood run cold. "Captain," Dongwu said, his voice shaking, "I'm picking up multiple hyperspace signatures, big ones. Lots of them." The view screen showed the readings. 50 ships were jumping into the system. The Krell had called their fleet. Jinho looked at his crew. His ship was barely holding together. The civilian fleet was exhausted and damaged. They had no reinforcements coming, and now they faced an armada that could crush them all. "All ships," Jinho said quietly into the communication system. "This is Captain Park. I'm not going to order anyone to stay. You've all done more than anyone could ask. If you want to run, now's the time. No one will think less of you." The minutes ticked by. Ships could be jumping to hyperspace, escaping before the Krell fleet arrived. But Jinho's sensors showed something different. Every ship was moving into defensive formation around the planet. Not one vessel ran. Captain Nari's voice came over the communication system. "We didn't come all this way just to leave when things get hard, Captain Park. The Lumini need 10 years to evacuate. That means we need to hold this system for 10 years. So I guess we'd better start building a real defense. Agreed, said another captain. Then another. Soon the communications channels were filled with voices, all saying the same thing. They were staying. All of them. Jinho felt tears in his eyes. 50 Krell warships were about to arrive, and the ragtag human fleet was preparing to face them with damaged civilian vessels and sheer stubborn courage. They were probably going to die, but they were going to die protecting something worth protecting. The Krell fleet dropped out of hyperspace. 50 massive warships filled the space around the system, their weapons powered and ready. The Krell commander sent a message to all human vessels. Surrender now and we will allow you to leave. Fight and we will destroy every one of you. Jinho prepared to give the order to attack to start humanity's last stand. But before he could speak, something impossible happened. New hyperspace signatures appeared on the sensors, hundreds of them, and they weren't human. Ships appeared from hyperspace in formations that filled the view screen. They were alien vessels, designs that no human had ever seen before. Sleek ships with organic curves, massive constructs that seemed to be grown rather than built, and crystalline vessels that caught the starlight and made it dance. Captain, I'm receiving communications from multiple alien species, Dongwu said, his voice filled with disbelief. They're responding to our distress call. All of them. One by one, the alien ships identified themselves. The Varani, a species of winged beings who had been freed from Krell occupation 20 years ago. The Moth Collective, a hive mind species that remembered human traders who had once helped them during a famine. The Silicates, rock-based beings who had heard stories of the humans who protected the weak. Dozens of species, some who had met humans before, many who had not, all responding to the same message. This is what humanity stands for. This is who we are. The Krell fleet, which moments ago had been preparing to attack, now found itself surrounded. The alien fleet didn't move to attack, but their weapons were powered and ready. The message was clear. If the Krell wanted to harm the Lumini, they would have to go through everyone. A Varani commander appeared on the communication screen. She was tall and graceful with feathers that shimmered like metal. We received the human distress call. We know what the Krell do to peaceful species. We know because they did it to us and no one came to help. But today someone is helping. Today we stand with the humans. A silicate elder, its body like living stone, spoke next. The humans could have ignored the Lumine. They could have fled when the Krell arrived. But they chose to stand and protect. This is a quality we respect. We will help them. One by one, the alien species declared their support. Each had their own reasons, their own history with either the Krell or with humanity. But they all agreed on one thing. What the humans were doing was right. The Krell commander appeared on the screen again. His scaled face showed something humans had never seen from a Krell before. Uncertainty. You would all risk war with the Krell Dominion? For one insignificant species? For a species that cannot defend itself, the Varani commander corrected. And for the principle that the strong should protect the weak, not exploit them. This is a concept humans understand. It seems the Krell do not. Jinho took a deep breath and opened a channel to the Krell fleet. Commander, you're outnumbered and outgunned. But I'm going to offer you something anyway. Leave this system in peace and we won't pursue. The Lumini are under protection now. Not just human protection. Galactic protection. Spread that message to your leaders. The old ways are over. For a long moment, no one spoke. The Krell fleet hung in space, surrounded by a coalition of species that had united for the first time in galactic history. The Krell commander's face showed the calculations running through his mind. He was a military officer, trained to evaluate tactical situations, and this situation was impossible to win. This is not over, the Krell commander said finally. The Dominion will not forget this. Good, Jinho replied. We don't want them to forget. We want them to remember that there are lines they cannot cross anymore, that there are people who will stand against them. The Krell fleet turned and jumped to hyperspace, not all at once, not in an organized retreat, but in scattered groups that spoke of a broken formation and confused leadership. The threat was over. For a moment, everyone was silent. Then the cheering started. It began with the human ships, their crews shouting with relief and joy. Then the alien vessels joined in, each species celebrating in their own way. And on the planet below, the Lumini created light patterns of such beauty and complexity that humans would be studying them for generations. Over the following weeks, the system transformed. The alien species that had come to help didn't leave. They stayed to ensure the Lumini's safety and to begin the long process of evacuation. Engineers from a dozen different species worked together to build defenses around the planet. Diplomats established what they called the Guardian Coalition, an alliance dedicated to protecting species that could not protect themselves. Jinho walked through one of the Lumini cities with Elder Soren. The crystalline streets were busy with activity as Lumini prepared for their eventual evacuation, but there was no panic, no fear. The humans and their new allies had given them hope. "We have created something for you," Soren said, leading Jinho to a plaza in the center of the city. All Lumini contributed to its design. In the center of the plaza stood a monument. It was made of the same crystal as the Lumini themselves, but somehow it caught light differently. As Jinho watched, he realized the crystal contained moving images. They showed human ships fighting to protect the planet. They showed Taiho's final sacrifice. They showed every moment of the battle, preserved forever in living crystal. "This monument will stand for as long as Lumini exist," Soren explained. "Every child born will see it and learn the story. The story of the humans who came from the stars and chose to protect us when they had no reason to. You gave us 10 years, Captain Park, but more than that, you gave us hope. You showed us that in a galaxy that can be cruel, there are still beings who will stand for what is right." Jinho felt tears on his face. "We just did what needed to be done." "No," Soren said gently. "You did what humans do, and you inspired others to be better than they were." Back on the Horizon's Promise, now repaired with the help of alien engineers, Hana was working with Lumini scientists on something new. The Lumini had offered to share their technology and knowledge with humanity and the Guardian Coalition. The scientific advances would change everything. "Captain, you need to see this," Hana said excitedly. "The Lumini's understanding of stellar mechanics is incredible. With their help, we could stabilize other dying stars. We could save species we don't even know are in danger yet." Minho entered the bridge with a report. "Sir, I've been coordinating with the Coalition security forces. We're setting up permanent Guardian stations throughout this region of space. Any species in danger can call for help and we'll respond." "How many ships are staying?" Jinho asked. "All of them," Minho replied with a smile. "The human civilian fleet is converting into the core of the Guardian fleet, and more ships arrive every day, both human and alien. It seems everyone wants to be part of this." 3 months after the battle, Jinho received a message from Earth. It was the first speaker again, and this time she wasn't speaking unofficially. "Captain Park, the Global Assembly has voted unanimously to officially recognize the Guardian Coalition. We're committing resources to support the protection of endangered species throughout the galaxy. What started as one crew's decision to help has become humanity's new mission. You've changed not just human policy but galactic culture. Well done, Captain." 5 years later, the Lumini evacuation was complete. Their entire species had been relocated to a new world with a stable sun, provided by the Guardian Coalition, but they kept one city on their original homeworld, maintaining the monument and the Crystal Gardens as a memorial and a reminder. Jinho, now an admiral in the Guardian fleet, stood once more in that plaza. The monument had grown, with new sections added to show the growth of the Guardian Coalition. It now depicted hundreds of species working together, all inspired by that first stand humanity took. A young human girl, no more than 10 years old, stood beside him. She was one of the new generation growing up in a galaxy where protection of the weak wasn't just an ideal, but a commitment backed by a powerful alliance. "Admiral Park?" the girl asked. "My teacher says you started all this. Is that true?" Jinho smiled and shook his head. "No, I didn't start it. Humanity started it thousands of years ago, long before we reached the stars. We've always believed that the strong should protect the weak, that every life has value and that doing the right thing matters more than doing the easy thing. I just reminded everyone of what we already knew. But you stood up to the bad guys when no one else would," the girl insisted. "True," Jinho admitted, "but I wasn't alone. Thousands of humans came when I called for help, and then thousands of aliens joined them. That's the real story. Not that one person was brave, but that when it mattered, everyone chose to be brave together." The girl looked up at the monument, at the crystal images of ships and sacrifice and hope. "When I grow up, I want to be a guardian too. Then study hard, be kind, and remember that strength isn't about how much power you have, It's about what you choose to protect. Jinho's communicator beeped. It was a distress call from a system 30 light-years away. A species called the Chorus was facing environmental collapse and needed help evacuating. The Guardian Coalition was already responding, with ships from 20 different species converging on the system. Duty calls, Jinho said to the young girl. Remember, we're all Guardians now. Every one of us has the power to help, to protect, to make things better. That's humanity's real gift to the galaxy. As the Horizon's Promise, now the flagship of the Guardian fleet, jumped to hyperspace, Jinho looked at his crew. Many of them had been with him from the beginning, while others had joined along the way. Humans and aliens working side by side, united by a simple idea that had changed everything. The Luminae had asked why humans would sacrifice for strangers. The answer had